What is up, guys? How's it going? Matthew here. Hope you're all feeling awesome because today we've got a short and sweet topic to talk about. So, what the heck are IIFEs? Let's start off slow and easy. What does IIFE stand for? IIFE stands for Immediately Invoked Function Expression. Back in 2010, this really super smart dude named Ben Alman, he goes by Cowboy Online. The name that he suggested was Immediately Invoked Function Expressions. Well, it's a function expression that gets immediately invoked, so it's an awfully good name for it, and that kind of became the de facto standard of how we call it now. But enough history, let's get into the workings of an IIFE. Now, while working with JavaScript, it's inevitable that one runs across a code that looks something like this. At first glance, things don't look all that weird. We've got a function, we've got some code inside the function. In this case we have puppies, and puppies are adorable. But wait a second, why is there a parenthesis before the word function? And there is even a parenthesis after the function itself. And then two more parentheses right after that? And worst of all, who uses semicolons? Well, actually I do, and you should too, but that's another thing. Now, all joking aside, what you're actually looking at right now is an immediately invoked function expression. But before I dive deeper into how this works exactly and how it differs from a regular function, we have to understand another term first. What is an expression? It's pretty simple. An expression is a combination of values, variables, or calls to functions that are combined and interpreted by the compiler to create and/or return a new value. Alright, I'll be honest, I was just reading that off. That wasn't just off the top of my head. So, no. Let's just look at an example, and I'll try to give you a more simple way of remembering what an expression is. In this case, well, let's say we have this. This is an expression, or this. This is an expression as well. When that code runs, whether it's this or this, new values will be created for both the variables x and y. Even simpler then, an expression is every part of code that returns a value. One thing to note that's very important is that the function is being assigned to the variable x, not the result of it. Meaning that if I were to console log y, I would see the function. In this case, this is just telling me that it's a function, not 3. In order for me to see 3 means that I would have to execute that function, in this case the y variable. Going back to this second example, like we said, this is an expression, and since in this case we're dealing with a function, that's what we call a function expression. Syntactically, it differs from a function declaration, which would look something like this. But in both cases, we would call the function the same way. But they do have some differences, with the most important of them being that function expressions are not hoisted. But I won't get into that now. So now that we understand what an expression is, and we can also understand what a function expression is, so we're down 2 words with 2 more remaining. Let's knock an easy one out. Invoked. Invoked simply means calling. Invoking a function simply means calling it. So there, right now I just invoked the function. So we got function expression, invoked. That means we only have 1 word left. Actually, I'm not even going to bother explaining that one. There's no reason to. So that means that we're out of letters. We're done. At the end of the day, IIFEs are just anonymous functions that you create and run immediately after. If you're wondering why, then just remember one word: privacy. In JavaScript, variables are scoped to their containing function. This means that they can't be accessed outside of that function. So whatever we do inside our IIFE will never spill out on the global scope. This, for example, if I wanted to console log puppy here, I wouldn't be able to, because it's not defined on the global scope. It's only scoped inside this IIFE. But if I were to move this one up here, then I can clearly see what puppy is, because I'm inside that function scope. In fact, one of JavaScript's most famous design patterns, the module design pattern, is built upon IIFES. That's it, guys. Now you know what it is, and when we know what something is, it's not as scary anymore. Because I know this thing sure as hell scared me when I first saw it. And one last thing, you might see some variations of an IIFE. For example, this is an actual function, meaning that a function can also receive some arguments. And if I were to console log cat, I'll just see what I just passed here. So if we wanted to pass a number of arguments into our IIFE, we would do so inside these parentheses. Now, one last thing you might be wondering is, why go through all the trouble to wrap this function in parentheses and then invoke it immediately? Wouldn't this be the same as me doing something like this, for example? Let's use an array function in this case and just return woof, and this would be pretty much the same. And yes, you're absolutely right, this would be the same. But in this case, we're actually creating a global variable, and that's exactly what we want to avoid with this pattern. IIFES are there so we don't pollute the global scope with unnecessary variables. We only expose what we want to expose, and that would be whatever we return from this function. And that's it for me today. Thank you so much for taking the time to stay with me till the end. Hope I made things a little bit clearer for you guys, and next time you hear IIFE, you know what it is and why we use it. Have an awesome week ahead of you. Stay frosty and take care of yourselves. Peace!